All right, Caleb, I want you to pull something up if you don't mind. And that would be the list of transfers from the 2024 season. In other words, the basketball transfers that occurred before this past season. Can you pull that up, please? If you don't mind, I would say that you go with 247 Sports, but you can do what you want to. Because here's the reason there aren't Cinderellas, and they're never going to be. And we're going to get to four downs. Caleb,
right.
the best players that can change the direction of a team, Dwayne Wade Marquette. The best players that can make a team into a bubble team or even a Cinderella team do not exist because
Steph Curry.
Steph Curry's a great one. I wish I'd have thought of that one already. And I might write something about this today. Steph Curry's a great one. Best example I could think of, actually. So they are not there anymore. Steph Curry is playing at North Carolina or Duke his last year instead of Davidson. Because why don't you pull up, if you got the transfer portal guys from last year, the St. John's guy, I think, was the number one guy, right?
Right. Kadari Richmond.
Okay. So he's been hurt this year, but I think we can agree that St. John's is somewhat of a basketball power. It's easier to do this via power in basketball.
I mean, the thing about St. John's is they're an old school Big East team that plays in Madison Square Garden.
Right.
And I mean, I'll just tell you guys this, having lived up here, like the way you guys think with the culture and the love of SEC football, like that is how like old Big East basketball was in the New York City area. Like that they had the exact same love for that culture of college basketball.
Right. There. It's a solid program. So I don't want that to throw my point off.
With a heck of a coach.
Yes. Right. All right. Who else?
All right. So Omar Balbo went to Indiana. John L. Davis transferred from Florida Atlantic to Arkansas. AJ Storr went to Kansas. Norcad Omier went to Baylor. Tucker DeVries went from, I believe he went to West Virginia, if I'm not mistaken. I believe ended up going to West Virginia. They were on the bubble this year. Great Osabar went from Utah State to Washington. Kobe Johnson went to UCLA. These are the top. I'm just going through the top 10 right now. Javon Small went to West Virginia. Chaz Lanier's number 10 went from North Florida to Tennessee. Jeremy Roach went.
So they've all gone to people that spend on NIL money. I don't want to call West Virginia and Tennessee basketball powers per se. St. John's would probably have a better argument than Tennessee. But I will say that those are all places that were willing to spend money. So to get Hendon Hooker paid, which a lot of you wanted, me included, you have to deal with an alternate state of affairs in which you are not going to see Cinderellas make the Sweet 16 or beyond anymore. I'm sorry. Those guys are, I mean, you've got a Darling Stone Dubar aside, or an Igor Milichik that could, in different circumstances, be a star at another smaller school. They're just kind of extras for Tennessee. It's not good. I mean, the NCAA tournament, as you knew it, Caleb, just 5 years ago, with Georgia State making a run, 7, 8 years ago, that's done. That's over. It's not going to happen. Not only are the mid-majors and the other teams that are not of the same ilk of a Tennessee that can spend money, they're lessened, but Tennessee's, for instance, their voids are filled. They've got guys they can lean on, and they're not losing guys to the portal that they don't want to lose. No offense to the guys that left. Caleb, am I right or am I wrong?
You know, I came into the show today thinking you're right. But then I found some more stats and I found some more data. And I think you're actually wrong. And I will
would not be the first time.
Yes, we both agree that it's not that this is going to continue. Here's the issue. Here's what's really happening. So the stat I pulled up is this is the fourth time in the last 8 years without a mid-major in the Sweet 16. So yeah, fourth time in the last 8 years, going back to 2017. Never happened from 1985 to 2015. But if you go back 8 years, Dave, That's pre-NIL and that's pre-transfer portal. Here is what's causing it. The rules changes in college basketball are less conducive to upsets. And what I mean by that is from 1985 to 2015, you had a 35-second shot clock. You had a three-point line that that three-point line was incredibly short, remember? Incredibly close to the basket.
Yes.
That was basically designed. You had no charge under the basket, by the way. I mean, no blocking foul under the basket. Meaning if you had a big guy, he could just camp out and stay under the basket and do this, and you couldn't score, and he wouldn't get a foul called on him. And so yeah, no defensive 3 seconds, no charge under the basket. You had all these different things that basically allowed less talented teams to win. College basketball, rightly, I would agree, changed a lot of those rules. They finally have the blocking foul under the basket. They moved the three-point line back. They shortened the shot clock to from 35 to 30 seconds, so lesser teams can't hold the ball for 33 seconds and then take a shot at the end. All of that together made it much harder for less talented teams to pull upsets in the NCAA tournament at the clip that they were pulling upsets. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen, and it can still happen, but it's less likely to happen. So now upsets actually carry value, because when the upsets actually happen, you can look at them and say, oh, that's a legitimate upset, not some gimmick set up by college basketball rules to do it. So with that in mind, I think that the rules changes, which are much more like the NBA now, they make college basketball a lot more like the NBA with its rules changes, are what have led to less teams scoring upsets in March Madness.
All right, let's get to 4 downs, because we'll have Caleb. He's got some other ideas too of why this may be happening. I feel as if I just told everyone while it's happening, but you just don't like it at all, do you?
I'm not saying you're wrong. That's what a lot of people think, but I think it's actually more.
A lot of people. I think I came up with this one on my own. I've not heard anybody say that. All right.
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
All right.
Coop here. First down.
All right. First down is this. Was it a fluke or a trend? Well, you know where I stand. I think it's a trend, and will continue as long as NIL and the transfer portal are a thing, which they are going to be forever. So you?
I think it's a trend, just for a totally different reason. But yes, I totally agree. It's a trend. I'm not debating you on that.
Okay. Coop?
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
Did NIL kill Cinderellas? Well, you know what I think. I just think you're going to be hard-pressed to find a team that can match up 5-on-5 with the powerhouses of the sport. And if you don't have a special player, which can change completely the way you play and the way you're viewed, if you don't have that special player, Caleb, I think you're going to languish against a team that's probably better from 1 to 12.
I think no, NIL did not kill Cinderellas, and it didn't kill mid-majors. And the reason it didn't, and the reason it didn't is I can just go to last year. I'm sorry, guys, we're forgetting this. UConn is a mid-major. They're back-to-back national champions. They got bounced out this year, but they have won back-to-back national champions in the era of NIL. NIL existed last year, and 11th seeded NC State made it to the Final Four. So it's a trend that there are fewer upsets than there were, but that does not mean that it's impossible. And NIL is not what's making it impossible. What's happening is the rules changes. The rules changes are making upsets less likely and harder to do, which is what it should be.
Okay. Disagree, but there we go.
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
Is this good for college basketball? This is a tough one, because we're talking about college basketball, not the NCAA tournament, right?
Right.
Okay. It could lead to some closer matchups in the regular season, but I don't think that the regular season is going to suddenly flip-flop and be a big boost for the sport. I think it's all about what happens in March, and I think it hurts March. So while I have conflicting thoughts on whether or not it's good for college basketball, I think the overriding factor is it will hurt the tournament, and that will hurt college basketball.
I think it's good for college basketball. This is crazy because, one, I don't think Cinderellas are dead. I think they're less. They're going to be less and less common. So what does that mean, Dave? When they do happen, there's going to be more value behind them. You probably were so sick of upsets, you didn't even think about it when an 11 seed made it to the Elite Eight, right? It was just too common. It wasn't special.
Oh, no. I think that stuff's pretty cool. And get to hear about, Mother Saint Mary, whatever. her name-
Loyal, oh, Sister Jean, Loyola Chicago. But here's the other part. Here's the other part of this, Dave. Here's the dirty little secret. People say they love the upsets for March Madness. They're not watching March Madness looking for the upsets. They're watching March Madness just because they're casually watching it to see how their bracket's doing.
Oh, I disagree. I want the upsets.
No one,
Maybe
Dave,
I'm
no one watches the. Here's what happens. Here's what really happens with the upsets that everybody loves. No one's watching the game because they don't see the upset coming. And then you're told that with 2 minutes to go in the game, oh, this could be an upset. So then everybody turns it on. Otherwise, they're watching the games that have the most impact on their bracket. And the brackets aren't going anywhere.
Okay, I disagree. That's not how I consume it. But Dylan says, I get UConn as a mid-major, but we can't sit here and say they're in the same realm as FAU. We do need to come up with a new term, don't we? Because mid-major, Gonzaga was a mid-major that had success in the tournament for 20 years. And then, I mean, if you want to, the last numbers I ran, football, this is a long time ago, so I'm sure it's doubled, tripled, whatever. But football was you spent about 8 or 9 times more than you did on basketball to have a competent program. So, in other words, you can be San Jose State Midwestern University of the Chicagos, and you can put together a basketball program. You probably can't say, I'm going to put together a football program.
Yeah.
There needs to be another term besides
that. I mean, schools like St. John's, Marquette, Gonzaga, even, I mean, I know they play football, but when you look at the schools that play football, but that aren't like powerhouses, UConn, even Memphis, we talked about them, schools that really care about basketball, like in a major way, like, but are not Power 5.
You just need a couple of big boosters to get that done.
Right.
With football, you need well over a dozen.
But then that's fueling my point, Dave. That's why NIL won't take away the power of the mid-majors, because those mid-majors can just get a booster or two to like buy a couple of players like St. John's just did, and they'll be fine.
Yeah, but they're not that rich. They don't have Pilot walking through the door at their booster meeting.
No, but Pilot's spending all of its money on football. And if you buy, Dave, this is basketball.
Well, everybody's going to be different.
But Dave, if you know this with basketball, if you buy one player, that one player could get you really far in the NCAA tournament.
Dalton Connect.
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. 4th down.
All right, 4th down is this. Will it get better or
worse? Well, sorry,
worse.
I didn't. Yeah. Will it get better or worse?
I like saying the or. I think it's going to be the same. I think that, listen, there's more people that are interested right now in college athletics than ever before, even though it feels like it's turning pro. So I think it's going to continue to trend up. If I were the wizard of college basketball and I could just change things, I think I could make it increase even more, Caleb. But there's a lot at play. So if we get back to my point, I think NIL has killed the Cinderellas. There's not a lot I could do to change that.
I think it's
major conferences would be a great way to say it, David. Thank you.
Depending on where you land, better or worse, because I think fewer upsets makes the sport better, because I actually like watching good basketball, not some fluky over officiated game that college basketball, that's 90% of the reasons for upsets in March Madness anyway that everybody loved. I think that here's where I'm going to land on this, and bear with me on this, Dave. I think it's actually, if you prefer the stupidity of gimmicky upsets, it's going to get better for you in the next few years.
I don't know why that's gimmicky. I don't know why.
Because the sport was the reason there were so many upsets for the sport. It wasn't because players on smaller schools played well. It's because the sport was designed for less talented teams to win. Okay? They made basketball a gimmick that rewarded mediocrity, a shortened 3-point line, a 35-second shot clock, over officiated games. Like, I'm sorry, it rewarded bad basketball. It didn't, like, that wasn't like these teams were playing good. And so the point I'm getting to is this. College basketball is going to go back to doing that. The NCAA, they feel like they know that they are thinking like many other people are thinking, which is that lack of upsets is bad for the sport. So we want to bring some upsets back into the sport. And they're going to think, how can we do that? Let's change some rules that allow for lesser teams to win in college in the NCAA tournament. That's what they're about to start doing. They're about to start changing some rules. They're going to do ridiculously stupid things to try to allow it in the NCAA tournament.
Well, I like the upsets. I mean,
I like them when they're legitimate. They were not legitimate with the 35-second shot clock.
You try telling a young man who's on that Georgia State team.
Was it Georgia State or was it VCU, or I'm trying to remember.
Any of them, pick one. You try to tell them that's not legitimate.
It wasn't. I'll tell it to their face. It was a gimmick. They got to the Final Four from a gimmick. Okay, if college basketball rules were what those rules should be, okay, they wouldn't have gone that far.
Okay, they wanted more scoring like every other sport. I'm surprised that the NHL hasn't made the net bigger. Seriously. Every sport seems to want more scoring except for hockey. And they wanted it just like anybody else. Do I feel like there were potential for more upsets? Yes, but the other team's playing with the same set of rules.
Yes, but okay, the other teams, here's what it is. It allows for more randomness when you do these type of things. And this is what I'm talking about. You're saying the other team's playing with the same set of rules. You shorten the 3-point line, you do a 35-second shot clock. Dave, bad teams can hold the ball for 33 seconds. Not to mention, you have 1-and-1, which I think is a stupid rule in college basketball, by the way. If you're in foul trouble, if you get into the bonus, you get 2 free throws when you get fouled. That's how it should be. Okay, it's a dumb rule to have 1-and-1, but that's another rule they need to fix. Okay, but they're seeing this now, and they're going to see one of two things. Here's the other reason it may not be bad. It depends on how the NCAA. Dave, do you think the NCAA is going to think about what's going to draw more viewers, or what are people going to want more? Because they're different. The two things are different.
No.
People are going to want more upsets. They're going to be like, I like to see the underdog win. They're going to do that, okay? But the NCAA is thinking about cash money. And truth be told, Dave, when the bigger teams are in the Sweet 16, their fan bases are watching. So that's better ratings in general.